all you Hollyweirdos. Welcome to another haunted yet fun episode of Hollyweird Paranormal Podcast. I'm somewhat flying solo on today's podcast because Bryce is doing theatrical theater kid things as he should, but I'm not fully solo. We have a very, very amazing guest joining us today. Today's guest is someone who lives at the intersection of the paranormal and the personal, and at times the theatrical. He's a ghost hunter, a Broadway trained performer and author, and someone who's never afraid to ask the big spooky questions. You know him from Kindred Spirits, Ghost Hunters, and a host of other chilling adventures, but his latest project might be his most personal yet. Adam Berry is here to talk about ghosts, connection, and everything in between. His most recent book, Goodbye Hello, Processing Grief and Understanding Death Through the Paranormal, invites us to rethink what it means to lose someone and maybe, just maybe, what it means to still feel them when they're with us. He's thoughtful, funny, wildly intuitive, and let's be honest, you'll find out if you don't know already, probably the only person who could make communicating with the dead feel fabulous, fun, and at the same time heartfelt. So you already know the drill. Grab that salt shaker or that salt lamp if you don't have salt, which is weird because everybody has salt. Grab your EMF reader and maybe some tissue because we might get a little itty bitty tiny bit verklempt, and get ready to be spirited into this conversation as we sit down crisscross applesauce with Adam Berry, paranormal researcher, investigator, author, and theatrical connoisseur. Let's get Hollyweird with Adam, y'all. You Hollyweirdos, before we jump into our haunted interview with Adam Berry, there's a couple of things we definitely have to promote here. First and foremost, you already know, the Windy City Parafest. All right. So ghosts, we love them. Paranormal shows, we binge them. Haunted hotels, we love talking about them. And we definitely debate in our heads whether or not we want to book a stay at them, right? Well, what if there's a whole weekend where you can possibly come together at a haunted hotel and hang out with some pretty dope names in the paranormal world in a pretty haunted city and take some cemetery tours, do some investigations, go to a paranormal prom, and meet some haunted vendors. All in Chicago, Illinois. Yeah, that is the Windy City Parafest. Girl, you better pack your chanclas and grab that huevo if you want to feel grounded, because this is going to be one hell of a weekend from June 12th through the 15th. It's all going to go down in Chicago with some deep dish pizza, because if we're going to talk to the dead, we might as well do it in style with some drama and some suspicious elevator activity from a haunted hotel with some Victorian vibes, right? You'll meet ghost hunters, psychic mediums, UFO experts, and possibly that one guy from TikTok who swears his toaster is possessed. And if you use the code Hollyweird at checkout, you'll save 10% off tickets, because spirits may be internal, but your budget is not, okay? So grab your EMF reader, bring your weirdest friend, because we all have that one friend. We all have that one amiga, right? Or amigo. And come get spooky with us at Windy City Parafest. Let's get haunted Chicago style. All right, now you want to head on over to windycityparafest.com to learn more about the event, to learn more about the guests, and to learn more about how to get tickets. You could be there in person, or if you want to be there electronically in spirit, we do have some live stream tickets for sale. Don't forget to use Hollyweird to save 10% off, because if you don't, then we'll haunt you. And that's going to take a lot more than just an exorcism. Speaking about being haunted, if you want us to haunt you, like regardless, then you can follow us on our social medias on Facebook and Instagram at Hollyweird Paranormal. And if you want to go a little bit further and support the podcast, you can do so for as little as $1 or more per month for however many months you wish to support us. To keep this Hollyweird train moving, you can join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can join our Patreon, be a part part of our secret podcast society of Saturday Night Ghost Club, you'll get access to these real ghost stories that we collected from our friends, neighbors, acquaintances, even coworkers, or people that just wanted to share a ghost story with us. We have it all on that podcast, guys. It's really juicy, and it's going to make you sleep with more than one nightlight on. So you could definitely venture, go take a look at patreon.com/Hollyweird Paranormal. If you want to learn more about Hollyweird Paranormal, then travel to our website, hollyweirdparanormal.com. There you could read our bios, get caught up with past episodes, shop our merch store, and so much more. Okay, guys, I think we covered everything. Also, if you definitely have a ghost story, then send it our way. We would love to read it and gather it for our Listener's Tales episode. We haven't done one in a while. We want your ghost stories. Send them to us, but maybe not the ghosts, okay? Those we could probably save for our exes, but then again, I think we've already sent our exes into vortexes, right? All right, guys. Well, now it's time to get Hollyweird. Hello, all you Holly weirdos. Welcome to another delicious and very special episode of Hollyweird Paranormal. As you heard in the intro, you already know. I don't even have to make an elaborate introduction, guys. It's Adam Barry. I mean, this old so-and-so over here. Adam, welcome to Hollyweird. It's about dang time that you are on this podcast.
I am so happy to be here. Anything Hollywood and weird and I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
But we're all ready for you because you have so many amazing things in the works. Not to mention, we're going to be in each other's spaces and faces in June because you're also going to be at the Windy City Parafest. And you're going to be doing a little bit of paranormal Pictionary.
I know. Listen, I don't know. We create things all the time for events, and I've hosted like Match Game, I think, or yeah, I did Match Game at Michigan Paracon, and so when they said Paranormal Pictionary, I was like, oh, this could be really good. Like, it could be really naughty, but it also could be really, really good. Like, I can't wait. I can't wait for it. I think it's gonna be the highlight of the week, one of the highlights of the weekend.
Have you ever been to Chicago? Are you excited for Chicago, or you're like,
Yeah. So my husband's family lives in Wisconsin, so just north of there, like Sheboygan, maybe an hour from Milwaukee. So I've been to Chicago a couple of times. I saw Hamilton the first time in Chicago when it was on tour. I've not, and the first time I was ever there, I was on tour with a company called TheaterWorks USA, getting my equity card. And I remember having like deep dish Chicago pizza for the first time and was like, holy Jesus, like this is the most amazing thing. But I've never spent like more than like a day in Chicago. I've always been outside of Chicago. I've investigated in Joliet. I've done a toxin outside of Chicago, but I have not been in like Chicago proper. So I'm excited to like get there, meet everyone, have a lot of pizza, see the tall buildings, get blown over by the Windy City. I want to do it all.
it's going to be a great time, and we're going to be hanging out in cemeteries and bars and having like a blast and definitely investigating some really interesting places. So as you guys heard too in the intro, like you guys should go to the website of Windy City Parafest and get those tickets. If you can't be there in person, you could be there virtually in spirit. There's a live stream and everybody's going to be there, including Adam, and it's going to be a blast. But Adam, rip the Band-Aid off real quickly. You have some tread, my dude. You have some tread in the world of the paranormal and television and eventually podcasting. But I mean, I'm sure you get asked this a lot. Tell us your journey into the paranormal, how you started, where you're going, where you hope to end up, and how you like to retire with all 8 of your fur babies. You don't have 8 right now, but I know you're going to have 8 eventually.
Yeah, yeah, eventually. I mean, it's a very long story. So if you're listening to this podcast and you need to use the restroom, pause it, use the restroom first, or take us to the bathroom. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's a long story, so I'll give you the truncated version. Basically, I grew up in a haunted house when I was a kid, and I know a lot of people say that like they grew up in a haunted house, but for me, I didn't. It was sort of like I didn't differentiate between the two. Like it just happened, things would happen, and I'd be like, oh, and I knew that they were weird, but it wasn't necessarily I was saying like, oh, that's scary and that's a ghost until I, pop culture caught up in the late 80s when like Ghostbusters and not late 80s, but in the 80s when Ghostbusters and Ghosts and all of these things started coming out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was obsessed with it as a kid. And so I started putting two and two together. And so I was always fascinated with ghosts. What are they? Do they exist? I was intrigued by the activity. And it wasn't until, I was on tour with TheaterWorks. I was telling you, we went to Chicago, but I was in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I went on a ghost tour on a night off. And I wandered off after the ghost tour by myself. And during going off by myself at like 12:30 at night on a battlefield, like it was public land, but like where a lot of the battle took place. And I saw things that I could not explain, misty shadow figures like in the woods. I heard gunfire, I heard footsteps. And it was at that moment that I reconnected to my childhood in a way where I was like, oh, no, 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 no. That's what that was. This is insane. I don't understand what it is. I need to know what it is. And so I basically jumped off the cliff and was like, I have to explore this. And so it started a spiral in a good way. And I just became more fascinated with reconsider paranormal activity in all genres and in all ways, scientifically, metaphysically, spiritually, emotionally. And it was a hobby of mine that my husband and I started our own paranormal team. And one day I saw a commercial that said, do you think you have what it takes to be a ghost hunter? And it was for it was Hunters Academy. And I was like, duh, like, yes. And so I applied like everyone else, ended up being on Ghost Hunters Academy, which was a spinoff of Ghost Hunters, where they would take cadets and they would put them in the haunted places in the country and they would observe their paranormal investigation style. And we were taught the TAPS method, and they kick somebody off the island every episode. And basically, I won that show, and my prize was being on Ghost Hunters with Amy Bruni, and the rest is history. Like it was this weird thing that I don't think I had control over. Not to say weird, but like I just don't think I had a choice in the matter. I think destiny was like, this is where you were supposed to be, and this is what you're going to be doing, and it chose me. And I'm very happy that I get to do this journey, if that makes sense. So that's the short version. There's a longer version in the book, in my book, Goodbye Hello, but we're gonna give it that's the parentheses version.
Just have to say, I went to Gettysburg last year and you wouldn't pay me to walk in the woods there. I don't know how you're supposed to do it by yourself. So you have the galls, the cojones to do.
Well, it was more like it was more like a moment where I was at a point in my life where I needed something, or I didn't know that I needed something else. And so the fear of what could happen took a back seat. It was more about I approached it was an open field with a line of trees, and I went down through this open field and got to the line of trees, and it was more of like, I need to see something now. Show me something now. I have to see something now. I want to see something now. And I know what's weird is I tell people don't do that when you investigate because the energy of the I want sort of can block out whatever else, and you're going to miss the thing because you're looking too hard. But I felt it just seemed purposeful. It seemed like this had already been planned in the universe, and now I am just being a part of it, and now I want to see. And it gets weirder than that. I mean, like I stood on the outside of this line of trees seeing these things, and I look to my right and nobody is there. It's 12:30 at night. I look to my left, nobody's there. I look behind me, the tour group is already gone. The tour guide had already said I wouldn't go down there myself because I was like, can I go down there? And he was like, I wouldn't. And so I did. And I'm standing and like any good horror movie, I walk into the line of trees, right? I went into the line of trees because I was like, I'm seeing something, but I need to see more. And that was, whatever. I don't know. It was something I can't quite explain. And it was life changing, clearly.
Obviously, yeah, you were pulled and there was a reason. The paranormal life chose you. I didn't choose it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So you get on the show with Amy, and I remember I was at Strange Escapes and you said something funny, like you're like, I was gonna be on the show with her and Jason was producing it or part of it, and he thought that you're just barely gonna last like a season. And then how many seasons later you ended up like being on the show and then going on to Kindred Spirits?
Yeah. 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 I mean, 15 years. 15 years.
Yeah, I feel
So
old.
like what's interesting is like I did not know, but I was only guaranteed like 6 episodes of Ghost Hunters. But because Amy and I had such a great repartee, and we it was like a brother sister got along really well. Also, our methodologies seemed the same for each other, which worked, but it got results. The way we would investigate, even on Ghost Hunters, it just got results. And I don't know if the ghosts were just like, those are cool. Those people are cool. Let's go hang out with them. But it just seemed to like, it worked. And you can't have a reality television about a ghost hunting team without activity and evidence. And so the network was like, they're great together. Like, don't we're gonna keep them around. And so we did that for 4 seasons, 5 seasons, and then took a year and ended up deciding that, because people were like, well, what are you doing? What do you want to do? And they were coming to us. And we just put pen to paper, wrote up a treatment for Kindred Spirits. And it's exactly what you see when you watch Kindred Spirits. They didn't change anything about it. They said, that's great. We're really interested in that. And we did that. So we got very, very lucky we got very lucky. So yeah, 15 years being a personality. I've always had a personality, but now everyone knows it.
Works. Theater works. I'm like, already know.
Mhm.
And it seemed like in one of the episodes of the show, like you guys of Kindred Spirit, you guys solved a murder. Is that right? You guys found a dead body in a basement. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is a great segue because my podcast, Is Haunted Life,
Yes.
debuts May 13th, 2025. So if this is before May 13th,
Yes.
get ready. If it is May 13th, go and listen right after this. And if it's after May 13th, you're late to the game, go and subscribe. But I talk about this specific thing in depth during the first episode because This Haunted Life is a podcast where we explore what terrifies us the most and why. And it's little things. So it can be anything from like basements to amusement parks to open water. Like, what are the weird things that terrify us the most and why do they terrify us? And so I talk about this in the episode or without giving too much away because I want people to go listen. You saw it on Kindred Spirits probably, but basically psychics would always say that they get a premonition that there's somebody buried in the basement of this Masonic temple, this lodge. It's now an antique store. And we were like, yeah, okay, that's interesting. But we go down and investigate and we get an EVP that says, I was left down here. And then I was like, well, was it the front, middle, or the back of the basement? It says back. And so, like any normal investigation team, I guess, we were like, let's figure this out. And so we had a cadaver dog come in. And sure enough, the dog picked up on a single spot in the back of the basement, did not pick it up anywhere else. Ground penetrating radar said there was an anomaly under the ground. And we had to call the police. And the police came, treated it as a crime scene. The state police were called, their dog picked up on it, and they literally used a forensic team to dig for a body in the basement. So it's wild. It's wild.
Put detectives, spiritual detectives on your dossier right there. That is
Well,
insane.
it's so weird. The only other time I remember us doing anything similar to that was when we were on Ghost Hunters. We were at the Black Dahlia house that is now, we were investigating there. People can rent it out for like movies, and it's the most gorgeous house in Hollywood. I mean, it's gorgeous.
It is.
But we were getting evidence, and I think what ended up happening is they had a cadaver dog come down and sniff the basement, so like theoretically where they thought possibly there could be where it happened. And the dog picked up on human remains in the basement, so much so that they reopened the case. They reopened the Black Dahlia murder case because of that. So it's like ghost hunting is, it's fun and it's fun and it's interesting. And some people don't take us seriously. I mean, those cops that showed up were like, not. They're like, they thought we had planted something. They did not take us seriously at all. And it shows on their Facebook page. They were like, some ghost people think but like, look at what happens. They called the state police. They picked up on something. They reopened the Black Dahlia murder case. Paranormal investigation can cause quite a stir in the community of like science investigation detective work. Like it just sometimes it happens.
Mhm.
And when the universe speaks, you better listen.
Exactly. I mean, there are psychics, professional psychics that are hired by, police departments, even the FBI to help investigate. And guys, the house that Adam is talking about is the John Soden house, and it's a gorgeous house. And this is what it looks like right over here. And it's beautiful, but it does have a very dark history to it. And I've had friends that have worked there and they past certain hours, they never like to be there super late, definitely hide themselves in a specific portion of the house. So that's really cool that you guys went in there and then once again opened up this huge like can of worms in the true crime community of having like these professionals come in and reinvestigate and reopen this case up. Like you said, things do happen. Maybe with you, Adam. I wonder why.
I did it. It was me.
I knew it.
Yeah, disclaimer, that was a joke. That was a joke.
To lighten up the mood, before we get deep, let's test your ghost reflexes. I have a couple of questions for you. Okay, would you rather haunted house with polite ghosts or apartment with passive aggressive spirits? Would you live in a house with polite ghosts or an apartment with passive aggressive spirits? That's the question.
Oh, well, I'm gonna live in a house because I'd rather live in a house than an apartment. So I'm gonna go with the nice ghosts because anyone passive aggressive, I have no time. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm gonna go with the house, and they're passive aggressive because they probably live in a tiny apartment. That's why they're passive aggressive.
There you go. Done. In New York. In New York. You have a little 5x4 right over there. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. If your EMF detector had a theme song, what would it be?
Literally, the first song that just came into my head was dun 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 dun. Gotta move on. Dun, dun. I don't know why, but that's literally the first thing that popped in my head.
And describe your ghost hunting style in 3 emojis. What would be your ghost hunting style?
But I have to like look at my emojis. Hold on.
You just need to look at it because I know we had to update our phone and we got that new little system updated. So they did add a couple of new ones.
Okay, so if I had to pick 3 emojis, well, first the ghost emoji,
Obviously, yeah.
obviously, because that's just like in general, this tells me what we're doing, right? And then it would probably be that like eyeglass emoji where he's like,
Oh yeah, the little.
he's like looking, he's sort of mewing, but also just like looking and it has the thing. And then probably, oh God, the last one's very hard. Oh, probably the yawn. Probably the yawn. Only because only because, and I say this with all sincerity, like when you start investigating for the first time and you're in the dark, you're like, God, like it's happening, it's happening. The more you do it and the more you get in the dark, and like I've investigated thousands of places. So like by the time I'm in the dark for like an hour and a half, my body starts to go, oh, are we going to go to sleep? Are we sleeping? And it's not that I'm bored. It's just like, I'm like, and so it's funny if you watch Kindred Spirits every once in a while, because we'd have very long days, very long days. Like we'd start at like 2 in the afternoon and go to 2 or 3 in the morning. And there were points where I'm just sitting there and you'll see me go like that with my mouth. And if you're listening, I have my mouth shut, but I'm doing like a closed mouth yawn because I know the camera's right there and I'm yawning just inside of my mouth. Or I like turn away, or like I'll turn away and like scratch and like yawn. You'll catch it because it's just, and I'm still engaged and I'm still ready and I'm still excited and the adrenaline kicks in when something fun happens. But my body naturally. So yeah, so a ghost emoji, this monocle emoji, looking at a yawn,
Yeah,
just for the sake of we should not be out past 2 a.m. Well, let's go to bed.
especially at a certain age, you're like, oh, Lord,
Yeah.
I need a pocket and a box wine right now at this point and my bed, and then I'm good.
The other day the other day they were like, there's a big club in our town in Provincetown where we live, and they were watching RuPaul's Drag Race, right? And it's like it starts at 8 o'clock or something. And they would always be like, come out to the thing and watch RuPaul's Drag Race. I was like, 8 o'clock. I'll be at home with my own bar. Like, I definitely don't. It's 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock.
If it's not a listen, if it's not a Broadway show, and I can't have like an espresso martini beforehand, I'm not why am I saying that?
That's true. My co-host Bryce, who's not here, guys, he's actually doing theater work. Us theater kids, look at us, would say the same thing. He would agree because anytime he passed 8, he's like, good luck. I do have another quick question. Have you ever had a ghost upstage you on camera? And if they did, how dare they? How dare they? But on Kindred Spirits, was there ever like a certain entity that was like wanting the spotlight?
Yeah. So 100%. So we investigated one of the oldest houses in Vermont, and we were in the barn area where they said women, of course, it's always women, but they were like, women feel really uneasy and they feel like they're being whatever. It's just like a dark, whatever. And so Amy and I go and investigate, and I use this tactic every once in a while when I think the ego of a ghost fits the scenario. And I say, there are cameras in here and millions of people are going to watch this. You can be famous. Like, this is your opportunity to get your word out, get your name out. And I sort of play to the ego of like infamous, like you will be infamous, right? And so we start getting more activity, and I'm like, oh, this is insane. And a long story short, I've said that like 4 times, but this ghost wanted a three-way, but with me. And he made it very clear that he was like, I want a three-way. Amy was one of them. And then he wanted another female. And we realized that this was like some guy from the 70s who, because this farm used to be like a rehab center, like a rehabilitation center. And we have no record of like anyone passing away there. We can assume maybe that happened because they're medical records. But this guy was a 1970s swinger that liked the idea of fame and they wanted a three-way, but not with me. And he said it. And he was like, three-way. And I was like, this nasty ghost. So he definitely upstaged both of us. And it was so funny, like when we were putting together that episode, it was such a I'm trying to remember. I think it's maybe season 5 or 6, but it is so good. And like there was a point where we thought maybe we wouldn't put it in the episode because it didn't necessarily serve the, but I was like, no, we are absolutely putting in there because it gives us the personality, like even more so. We had already found out that he was like fame hungry and like the idea of being on camera, being famous was great. But no, 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 we have to keep that in. And so we kept it in and it's superb ghost. It's superbious ghost. And so that's definitely upstages. It definitely upstages.
Okay.
Oh, I think after the reveal, I don't know if this is PG-13, but
Oh, it's okay. You could, yeah.
because it's a bed and breakfast, the owner told us a story about finding, I don't know in that area or in that space, finding things in the side tables after people leave. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say anything else, but she starts bringing this up, telling us, and I'm like, has nothing to do with the ghost, but okay, girl, tell me like they just like find things that guests leave. So that ghost is having a field day when people are staying there.
I'm enjoying the afterlife, and you guys being there is like my time to shine.
Yeah. And also like the idea that this pervy ghost is probably watching all these people that maybe stay there.
Yes.
You're getting married. Oh, it's a honeymoon suite, front row seat.
Ew, that's so true. He's like, I'm actually happy. I don't want to go anywhere. This is fine.
Yeah, it's wild.
Oh my gosh. You guys have gone through it and seen it all. I'm like,
Hmm. Things we don't even need to see. Like, I don't want to see that.
yes. And hear about it too. But you're like, that's fine. I don't want to be in a three-way with you. It's okay. I'm done. We're out.
I'm out. I'm out.
1,000. Well, let's transition into
I just one even transition, but we're gonna
trying
do it.
so hard. I'm like,
How do we segue?
how do we segue? We're gonna get a little.
Speaking, yeah,
Speaking of orgies and prophylactics, let's talk about your book. If you want to honor, it's a beautiful
yeah.
guys. I didn't read it. I had it on Audible because it saved me in my commute on the 405 to and from work. Guys, if you know, we know. But man, it took me like 2 days and it's goodbye, hello, guys. If you can, get it on Audible, buy it in paperback and read it. It is one hell of a personal and emotional journey. And I have so many questions. I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off once more. What was the moment, Adam, that made you want to write Goodbye Hello?
So first, let's say Goodbye Hello. The title is Goodbye Hello: Processing Grief and Understanding Death Through the Paranormal. So the premise of the book is to help us better understand our own grief and mortality through the lens of the paranormal. Like, what do we know that ghosts say? How do we interact with ghosts? What does that mean? And there's chapters on like near death experiences, end of life. There's an end of life chapter. There's a chapter on religion and ghosts. Like, how do we fit that into, because I grew up Baptist, like, how does that fit into that thing? So it covers a lot of topics, but the crux of it was, I was thinking about all of the things that we experience when we investigate the paranormal. And yeah, obviously our style of investigation is we want to find out why they're there and if they need anything or want anything. And so the question comes to mind, like, well, why are they even there? If they want something, what is it, unfinished business? They're looking after family members. They're sort of still living in our world, but not really. And it's because they're holding on to something, or there's something that they need to do or accomplish. And I wanted to write a book that was different than just, I guess, like a how-to paranormal book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I talk about this in the book, but what really came to mind when I was thinking about, like, if I were to write something, what would I write? There's a story in the book where it was one of my first paranormal events when I was on Ghost Hunters, and I was at the Otisagwa Hotel with Amy, and I think maybe Britt Griffiths was there. But we had done this Q&A, and it was like really cool. It was the first time I ever done that, where they were like, "What's your scariest place? What's your favorite episode? Any funny things behind the souls on Ghost Hunters?" And we wrapped it up. And I was just about to leave to go up to my hotel room, and this woman comes up to me and she says, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Yes," thinking, it's going to be, "Well, how'd you get into this?" or like whatever. And she
Mhm.
looks right at me and she says, "I have about a month to live. I've been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and I'm wondering how do I communicate with my family once I'm gone?" And I remember I was so young. I was 26, 27, just getting into, like, not paranormal, but this world of, like, I don't know, paranormal like, whatever, like, people are asking you questions, but this is something out of left field, and I did not expect her to say that to me, and of course, no one has that answer, like, we don't have that answer, really, and I look at her and I say, "I don't know," and at that point, I was almost teared up because I was like, "This is so intense to
Yeah.
be experiencing, and it really connects what we're actually doing here when we say we're talking to those who have passed on, like, this is what we're talking about." And I said, if you find out, when you find out, I was like, "Can you come back and let me know?" And, her face, she wasn't disappointed. Her face didn't change. She had this, like, this almost pure understanding across her face. And she said, with a kind of a smile, she was like, of course I will." And,
Participation.
she's like, "Of course I will." And she gave me a hug, because and then of course, I haven't heard from her since. I'm I know nothing. I don't know nothing about the trajectory and if she's still alive. I'm assuming not, but I don't know anything, right? And she
Right.
hasn't come back to me. But that right there was the one thing that popped into my head, and I was like, "What does that experience mean for me?" Like, that changed the way that I thought about what we were actually doing. Like, it can be a very serious thing. I know it's fun to go sit in the dark and have activity happen and experience it, but what's the reality of what we're doing? And I wanted to write a book about that. So it's it's really for anyone who believes or doesn't believe in ghosts, because I talk about a lot of different topics in terms of science, and I interviewed smarter people than me because I don't think I know everything, right? And I wanted to learn. So the book itself is a process it's a journey for me to learn and to grow as a person in the paranormal community. And it just gives you a different idea or outlook. If you've lost someone and you feel stuck in something, maybe something in this book will unlock, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I haven't thought of it that way." And maybe it helps a little bit more. Yeah, I just wanted to do something that really connected with people, and it does. It has.
Tell you, it really has, especially me. I've been going through like a personal like grief journey myself, and being a part of this community, it has helped me process so much. Your book definitely played a part, and I recommend it to people too that are going through that journey and they have had really good responses to it. And second, like I've been able to talk to death doulas and hospice nurses and so on and so forth to have a good understanding to where I'm like, I'm really I'm not afraid. Like, if my time comes, it comes, and we'll figure out what happens after we cross that threshold ourselves, babes.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what I love so much about the book is that you took people on this active role through a grief process. And that is so telling of like your journey right now. Like it's like you've gone to this phase, like, well, let's take a deeper dive into the process of grief and the paranormal. How did writing this book change your personal relationship with grief?
Uh, First of all, thank you. Your words are very kind. I appreciate that. You know, it's interesting because grief is something that you learn to live with rather than something that you get over, right? So it comes in waves. Like I talk about this little peanut right here. That
I
little
little snickerdoodle.
my little I have a picture of my dog Maria who passed away, and I talk about her in the book. I can scroll like iPhone does this really great thing where every once in a while it'll hit you with like a video from your past that they just make with all your photos, and they're like, look at this collage. And she'll come up in these photos every once in a while and her little playfulness and when she was healthy and it hits you. It still takes you back to like the day that you had to make the decision to that it was better for her to go than to be in this body that she was suffering in. And so for me, I think the book has given and the research that I was able to compile and to pull together has helped me know that there is something after this, right? Like it's helped me to say that sometimes people don't stick around and sometimes they do. And it's okay if they don't. It's okay if you never hear from them again because maybe their purpose isn't to be here to make sure you're okay. Like they got plans, they got things to do, right? And I think it doesn't make the grief any easier, but it helps me understand that they're not thinking about it. They're not suffering how like we're suffering from the loss of it, but they're on to the next thing, right? And so it's okay to be sad and it's okay to grieve. And it's okay to have those moments of God, that was just, I forgot that memory. But it's a blessing also because they were in your life and they were with you. And so you sort of flip it on its head. You were like, no, I got to have that experience with that person or with that animal. I was lucky enough to have those moments and those memories. So that is a blessing. Even though I'm sad that they're not here and I can't make new memories, I have these other ones.
Mhm.
And, through investigation of paranormal, it's like maybe I can talk to them. Like I feel like I can talk to Marie all the time. I can bring her back to life if I just speak her name out loud and be like, how are you? The same with any relative. If I ever want to say something to them, I want to say it out loud. Maybe they can hear me. And so I think that's how it sort of helped with, dealing with the loss of a loved one or dealing with the loss of a pet or a friend. It's sort of helped me grow in that way. I think there have been times where I think maybe Cheeto. So Cheeto is our other. We have two dogs now. Cheeto is 17 and a half, probably 17 in 6 months. Maria passed at 17 and a half. And so Cheeto is, Cheeto's getting to an age, right, where we're like, and then we have Buttermilk, the buddy, and she is will be 2
Yeah.
in September. So I think at times that we've been like, maybe Cheeto is sensing her or there's that connection. Yesterday, it's funny that you asked that because yesterday I was standing at the door looking at something and it could have been Cheeto because he's half blind and just wanders around a lot. But I felt something on the back of my left heel as I was standing and the dogs were there and I turned around, but Cheeto was like, he was a good 6 feet, 5, 6 feet away from me. And he doesn't move fast. And I remember saying to Dan, I was like, I think I just kicked, like, my foot just ran into Maria. And I said it kind of as a joke, but it's weird that you're asking me. And also, why not? Like, I mean, if she's around, she's here. I mean, I haven't seen her. So when we were in the vet, when we had to, make the decision, I saw her, what I would classify as like a crisis apparition. So it's, usually it happens when someone passes away who's far away from the other person that they're connected to, and that person like sees them in the space with them, not knowing that they have passed away. Like there's a yeah, for something like that. But there's a moment where I'm literally like holding her. It's after it's all happened and we're just having our time with her.
Yeah.
And Ben swears that he sees her coming into the room and trying to jump up like she's young and youthful again and trying to like jump up and say hello. And he's literally going, "Oh my God, I see her." Like we're in the space and he's like saying this. Um, so that was pretty, I mean, that was pretty intense. And that was like right after it happened. And so I think that is something that has occurred where she has come back, but I don't know. I haven't seen her. I mean, I feel her occasionally. I mean, yesterday I could have kicked her. But I think if there's anybody if there's anyone that she's interacting with, so it's going to be Cheeto because Cheeto is sort of reaching the end of
Yeah.
something. And I think, just like humans, I mean, he's not like that, right? He's not like in hospice. But like the people say that they see their relatives in different ways when they're at their end of life. And maybe she's coming back, hanging out with him to make sure that he's okay, to like help him along on that journey, which is really sad to think about. I don't want to think about it at all.
No, well, I'm getting for clips too. But there's this beautiful quote. I have it here in my notes. You call death, speaking about transition, this is what I love so much about your book. You call death a transition rather than an ending. And that is to me, that was my biggest takeaway. I'm like, that is such a beautiful way to see it, is that death is not the end all be all. It's just a transition. Lord knows what happens in that transition, what happens to us. Like, do we go into infinity or do we stick around for our family? Which I believe we have a decision to do. That's just in my opinion. But I just found that so comforting. And also to segue into this, and I'm sure we've all seen this, especially on Strange Escapes. I've seen this too, especially at the Belvoir Winery. There were a couple people that go to these events specifically with you and Amy, and they are fresh and great. Like they have just someone. Like, I mean, what do you think? How do I put it politely? Like, when people have just lost a loved one and the next thing they want to do is do an investigation and hope that they could connect with them. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Um, I think that's happened a lot, of course. Like, I just lost my dad. I just lost, my whatever. And they talk about it. And I think I see more of it from their perspective that they are looking at something that they might have been interested in, but have never had the courage to go and uh, deep dive into it, like investigation. What are ghosts? Do they stick around? So don't necessarily see. There have been a few where they're like wanting to connect with their loved one during an investigation, right? But that comes more from like a chip coffee gallery reading, right? Or like a psychic gallery reading. What I see more often is they're just curious on how to connect with those that have passed on
Yeah.
in case they ever want to try it for themselves, right? Whether they want to reach out after this event to a loved one, not necessarily at the event, but they're intrigued, like, how do we do it? How do you do it? What are the steps? And I see a lot of that. I also see a lot of sometimes when we're investigating and they don't say that they've just lost somebody. This happened at the Washington. I think I even talked about it in the book where we're investigating and the activity is completely different than the previous group that came in, and it's normal for that to happen. Obviously, the group's energy changes the space, and maybe we get a different person or whatever. But it was very unfamiliar, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized that it possibly could be a relative of somebody. So I was like, "Did anybody lose? Like, what's happening? I feel like somebody has lost." And this girl said that she had lost her dad or whatever. And then I was like, "Great, ask him." And this has happened a couple of times, and the activity starts popping off with this girl or this person saying the name of their father or whoever they lost. They're coming through, right? Like they're with them coming through in the space, getting answers. And then as that group leaves, the activity goes back to what it was before they got in there. So I've seen that before. And I always say to people when this happens, I say, they probably knew that you were coming to this. They're probably watching over you, right? They knew what you were doing, and it was an opportunity for them to reach out. But then I say, I want to caution you to not get addicted to this reaching out to the loved one. I was like, especially by yourself when you've never investigated before ever. And the reason why I say that is because it's not that they're not going to reach out to you, but like we as investigators spend a lot of time debunking and figuring out what something is not haunted. Like, right, debunking and saying, oh, that's the air conditioner, that's that, that's this, that's the whatever. But if you've never investigated before, or maybe you're just starting out and a loved one is reaching out to you and you're fixated on the connection, every little thing that happens around you that you can't explain is going to be dead.
Yes.
Which,
Not.
right? And it's a two-headed question. Like, so what? Right? So what? They get joy from it. So what? Let them have it, right? If they think that photograph is their grandmother, let them have it. So what? Right? They're not asking for your opinion. They're just getting comfort from the idea that it could be them, right? And then the other hand is if the so what takes over and then they constantly think they're always there and they're always there and then they're always there. And then one day they stop getting answers. One day the maybe the plumbing gets fixed or maybe the lighting gets fixed. I'm not saying it's like that every time, but maybe it all goes away for them. They're shoved back into the grief again. Why aren't they talking to me? What did I do wrong? Why am I right? Like, what have I done wrong? Is it my fault? Did they go away? And maybe the transition's over. Like they're done. They don't need to be here anymore. You're good. You're safe. And they've moved on. It has nothing to do with you at all. It's their transition, right? It's their going on to the next journey. And that can really affect you again, all over again. You've spent a year talking to them. You're feeling great about yourself. And then one day you don't get any answers. And you immediately go, what's wrong? What did I do? Why aren't they here? Come back, right? And you have to suffer the loss again. So I just tell people be very cautious, and and that's to say like if you get signs from them, whatever that may be. Some people find dimes, some people animals like weird like come up and they're like, oh, well, that's my grandmother. There's just like signs. There's just like things that happen that make remind you of them, and that can be signs from them. Take that, enjoy that, and then continue your own journey in this life and just be like, that's great. That they were here. I'll take that with me and let it happen naturally, I guess.
That is something that I think that's one thing that I truly learned about those events, especially with Strange Escape, is that people really do find closure in haunted places. And I love how you guys hold space for them. You're like, okay, because I've seen it, like definitely at the Belvoir and where else? I think in Waverly as well too. And it's just like to see you guys operate like that with such, empathy is so important. Like we need more of that because you don't
Thank
see
you.
that often. Yes. And I mean, what people are seeing more and more now is like we could transition to media, clear the air too, because I told a couple of people who are big fans of the podcast, like we're having you on. They're like, "Can you ask what happened to Kindred Spirits? What is going on?" And there's this massive effing rumor, guys, that you thought that the one particular man of a show about adventures with ghosts was the reason why all these shows got canceled.
Mm.
Pick up a Variety magazine or read a finance section of an article because it's just this merger really messed everything up for everybody. And I think it was like the head of Warner Brothers, from what I was told, he just doesn't understand paranormal TV or he just doesn't like it and it just screwed everybody up.
Mm.
Do you see like in the future of paranormal television, is there another future or did it just already have its time? Will Kindred Spirits ever come back?
Oh, well, if you're correct. If you look up any articles about streaming television, it's on its head right now. Like nobody really knows what's happening. I think and it's not that the head of Discovery. I'm going to put this out there. It's not that the head of Discovery doesn't understand paranormal. They don't. There no TV people or executives are looking at genre specific television to say let's get rid of it or let's keep it, right? It's not like that. It is about finances, viewership. It is about platforms like where the airing. It's just so complicated.
Yeah.
And it's all figures. It's all figures.
Well,
It's all we're not. privy to, right? Like we just don't know. So the thing is, I think it's not that paranormal TV is gone forever. Like Kindred can definitely, we definitely can come back. I just don't think they know. They don't have a crystal ball, and they don't know the future. And they sort of thought they did with streaming because remember we were on cable, and we went to streaming, and then we were on streaming and cable, and I don't think anyone's working at Travel Channel anymore. I think it's all sort of lumped into Discovery.
Yes.
Um, and Discovery has a different algorithm than Travel Channel did in terms of success. Like, Netflix also has a different algorithm. Like Netflix can have one season of something air and everyone's insane about it, but they don't renew it because it doesn't hit the formula or like the math that they're looking for. Is it doesn't, and it doesn't matter whether or not the fans really, really like it. It doesn't make sense financially in the terms of the algorithm that they're using, right? So it has nothing to do with any of that, right? So I think what's interesting is paranormal television is like the spiritualist movement in the sense that the spiritualist movement gained traction after the Civil War because of all the death. It came back it was like through the 20s, 30s. We're talking World War One, getting into World War Two. Okay, and then it sort of faded out. Um, Ghost hunters and ghost adventures and paranormal reality television gained extreme popularity after September 11th. It was right after that point where it was this resurgence, right? And I don't know if that's the case, but we were all thinking about this tragedy and what that means in our own lives. It
Yeah.
affects everybody, and then it sort of, and then we had a pandemic, right? And during that pandemic, of course, ratings were higher than ever because everyone was at home. Nobody was going out, right? And it sort of fueled a few more years. And so I think paranormal, I'll have to say, I think paranormal television will come back at some point. And I don't think it's going to have to take a national tragedy, even though what's happening now,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to, take that for it to happen. I just think, I think the TV world and the streaming world, they're going to have to settle down for a moment before they're going to be able to go, okay, take a breath. What else can we pull back? Right. Because specifically, they're going to run out of content. Everything that they put on the shelves for years and years and years, they're airing now, and they're going to run out of content. And at some point, they're going to need content. And are they going to pick up the baton and keep going? Like, who knows? It's up to them. I'll say what's interesting though now that they haven't thought about, well, maybe they have, but everyone is sort of self creating their own content.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it for years. There are a ton of people on YouTube that have very successful streaming platforms where they're going and investigating ghosts and they're making a lot of money doing it. And they don't need network money. They don't need it. They're doing it on their own. They're doing it on their own dime. They have their own fan base. None of the crossover into Travel Channel television. It just doesn't. They don't. They watch YouTube. They watch YouTube. They watch YouTube. They watch YouTube. They're not watching network streaming television. They just aren't because it's free.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that they're going to have to contend with. You create your own content very well. I started a podcast on my own, creating my own content. I know Amy has something that's coming out soon where she filmed it, paid for it herself. That's going to come out. So it's like they're going to have to figure out what that balance is because everyone can just make their own content now and put it out. And maybe they won't, maybe they're making, a lot of people aren't making a lot of money doing it, but it's about creating content, being true to themselves and having control over it and not having to worry about whether or not they have a job the next day. This is their job. They're doing it themselves. So yeah, I mean, all of that in a nutshell, I take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I only know what I know from what we experience and what we see. And maybe somebody else on television, their experience is very different. But yeah, all of those things that you don't see anymore sort of were put on the back burner when the merger happened, and then they're just trying to figure out what to do next.
Exactly. There's a lot of lore. People were just coming up with all sorts of excuses.
Yeah, it's funny that people come up with things all the time where it's like you're in the boardroom. What's your position? What was your position at the? Oh, you talked to this person that we have access to. You talking to them too?
Yeah.
No, you didn't. No, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just going off speculation and rumor.
I was like telling people, like, read a variety, guys. Like, it's there.
Read.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard these days. It's hard these days. It's like, you read something and you're like, is it real? Is it AI? Did the Pope really say that? Like, did he say that? It's like you have to look up everything now. And so it's like do your own research and like, pick articles and things from reputable sources.
Exactly. Before we come to an end, you did say about creating, we have to touch on this haunted life. Like,
Yes.
it haunted life about things that go bump in the night and probably those things that trauma bond with us and make poor Victorian apparel decisions. Maybe, I don't know, but we could talk about
So people have asked me, are you gonna do a podcast? You do a podcast, and so I've been working on this since probably April 2 years. 2 years ago, I this idea sort of spawned. Actually, haunted life is my. I'm showing you my sweatshirt, and I'm wearing haunted life. That is something that I coined. I'm sure other people have said it, but I use it as my apparel merch because I feel like I live a haunted life. There are a lot of people that live haunted lives. You do. You live a haunted life. And I wanted to create a podcast that sort of mirrored This American Life, which I don't know if you've listened to This American Life, but
loved. Yes.
right. And so and what I loved about This American Life is it took real people's stories and it put them out there, and the documentary style was very interesting, right? And so that sort of was the spawn of the idea. And I said, what if we talked about the simplest things that terrify us the most? Like it could be, as I said this earlier, like basements is the first episode, right? And basements are basements, but like, why are basements so terrifying at times? Like, why in horror movies are basements featured the way they're featured? Why does everyone run to a basement when they're being chased by, uh, you know? And so it has segments on like, what is the psychology around basements and why is it scary? And then I talk about the case here. We find the body in the basement, and then I talk to a real life person. His name is Great. His name is Grady. He what's interesting is if anyone's listening and you have a story, just email us hauntedlifepodcast.com. I mean, sorry, yes, that, but haunted. Oh my god, I can't even think. Yes, hauntedlife@gmail.com. Is that? We don't even know. What's my email?
I'll put it in the show notes, guys.
Yes.
Definitely hit 'em up.
Thank you. Thank
And
you. Do that. It's Adam Berry at hauntedlifepodcast.com. Anyway,
so
but basically, like, and so Grady literally wrote me this story about a time he lived in a basement in North Dakota. And this crazy experience that he happened. So, Grady tells his story in his own voice, and I sort of narrate around it. I don't ask him questions. It's very narrative format. And then I tell childhood stories about my basement experiences, and we wind up. So it's a really great. I just listened to the final edit, and I squealed like a little girl being asked to prom because I thought it was so good. And I'm biased. But it's like that. Or it could be as simple as like when you turn off the light and have to run back to your bed before the monsters grab you by the ankle. Like, why is it terrifying? I don't know. Anyway, so this haunted life is a podcast about what terrifies us the most and why the hauntings are closer than you think. So whether you're a believer or not, it's something we talk about history and science and fun things. And it premieres May 13th, 2025. You're already listening to this in May and it's August. Get on it because it's a bi-weekly release. And if you join the Haunted Life patreon.com/Adam Berry. You'll have access to the episode 24 hours in advance, and you get our companion podcast, which is a podcast called The Afterlife, where I bring on special guests and we talk about the subject matter of each episode in a fun, unscripted, maybe there's cocktails kind of way, which is fun. It's like a totally different vibe because it's a narrative. This Haunted Life is a narrative podcast, and it's written, and the other podcast is more personality based.
love it. You're like the Ira Glass of the paranormal. Look, I had like Ira Glass is always going to be my daddy. All right.
I love that. I'm writing that down as a quote. You're the Ira Glass of the paranormal.
Ira Glass is the host of This American Life, and I remember, like, I mean, I've been listening to that podcast for, my God, 15 years when I was in grad school, and I love that man's voice, and I always had a crush on him. And I mean, that's so smart, that you're doing that, because not a lot of people think about that. I hear a lot of great podcasts that just sit and talk about ghost stories, or they banter about the movies, but this really takes a deeper dive into analyzing, the study of fear, near death experiences. I'm sure you're going to hit on haunted dolls, like this fascination of
Oh
haunted dolls,
yeah,
fear basement. I mean, that is
for
so,
sure.
yeah.
And what I love about this format is that it can change at any time. So I always ask people, like, you know, if you have a narrative short story about one of our topics, send it in. I'll read it on air. Like, I like the idea of it being a flexible podcast where we can talk about current events if we want to, because, we're releasing them as we're doing them. And if I want to go out to a graveyard and investigate and take you with me and make that part of the podcast, we're going to do that too. So the format doesn't have to stay the same because just like each person in our worlds, we all have different experiences and we all want to talk about different things. And it can change based on we find interesting and what we wanted to share. But I did write that down. You're Ira Glass of Paranormal, Tammy, Hollywood Paranormal.
Yes, darling, keep on like quoting me. But can we also talk about your you just don't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Adam Berry. You created something on top of creating something. You started a little group in Providence Town with Ben, your partner Ben.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. If you are on the East Coast or anywhere in the world and you're coming to the East Coast at any point, my friend Kathy Kelly, who is the owner and operator of the Paranormal Museum in Asbury Park, she has a house here. And my husband and I we're opening a shop called Sanctum Paranormal. And it's half retail ghost tours. So there's like retail, and then you'll have like tarot, well, special guests like tarot readers and psychics can come in. But the ghost tours, we do haunted history tours, cemetery tours. We do an American Horror Story Behind the Screams tour because they filmed a season in Provincetown. We're planning on doing UFO sightseeing tours because there's a lot of abductions in this area. So it's a tour company with retail, and then the other side is a mini paranormal history museum. So it'll have artifacts from the Victorian morning period. It'll have artifacts from the spiritualist movement, spirit trumpets, wrapping hands. We'll have haunted dolls, things that are from her museum in Asbury Park that will transfer over. And those are guided tours. So you can come in, spend 40 minutes, and have a guide tell you each story about the history of the paranormal and the things that are happening. Take a ghost tour later. So I'm very excited about it. There's nothing like it on the Cape. There's nothing like it in our town. And it's something to do that isn't something to do with a family that isn't like shopping, eating, or like seeing a show. Is something you can do at any point all day long. I'm very excited. If you go to sanctumparanormal.com,
Yes.
you can get tickets for our tour. We plan to have a soft launch at the end of this month, and then we'll be fully operational mid-June with our artifacts. And these artifacts that we have are obviously they're historical, they're history talking about the morning area and spiritualist movement, whatever, but they're one of a kind. I mean, there's nothing like it anywhere else because it is what it is.
Right.
And so I think it's going to be interesting for people to go and actually be like, oh, that's a 1865 Victorian morning dress. Wow. Okay, cool. That's a Harry's. What does that mean? What does a spirit trumpet? Why did they? I think it's really cool. I'm very, very excited.
I'm excited for you. Yeah, and you guys can follow them too at Sanctum Paranormal, right?
Yeah,
At Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all over. And Haunted Life has an Instagram too. I snagged that really quick before somebody stole it. So whatever, we're everywhere.
You guys are everywhere, and that's so amazing that, I mean, you have so much going on, because that was another the last question I was going to ask. Like, I mean, I guess, what is next for you after all these like projects have already launched, your podcast, Sanctum Paranormal? Like, are you going to sleep? Are you going to write another book? Are you going to adopt another?
So yeah, yeah. So they're always pets, always pets. We're always thinking about another pet. There's lots of things that are coming up down the pipeline. The thing about what we do, and you can relate to this, like
Mhm.
we create our own work. Like we are creatives, we create our own work. I mean, of course, people come to us and want us to do certain things. That's great. Like I love that, but we can't sit around and wait for that shoe to drop. We have to bills, honey. We have bills.
Yeah.
So I think people call it hustling. I call it just like living your life and doing what you do.
Mhm.
Yeah, there is. I'm working on a pitch for a new book, which I am excited about. That is different than the last book because the last book was very, very heavy. This is sort of the reverse of that, which is it's kind of fun. And there's always things down the, it's I'm open to new adventures and ideas. My events, AdamberryEvents.com. We have events coming up. I'm excited to be at Windy City in June. So yeah, follow us, like us, even though Kindred Spirits and Ghost Hunters aren't actively making episodes right now. That doesn't mean that you can't get content from us and support us in other ways until that happens again. Like at some point it'll happen again. Something will happen. But we're not going anywhere. We're here.
One last question. If your book, Goodbye Hello, was turned into a play or musical, who would you have play the lead? Yes. There you go. Done.
Hello. Duh. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you like what that musical would look like. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, it could look like Stranger Things. Like it could be, I don't know what it would be. But I'm clearly casting myself as the lead. I went to school. I went to school for musical theater, and I'm still paying for that degree by the by. So I need to use it for something. And in one way, recording the audiobook and making a podcast, I can use my voice and narrate and blah blah blah. But give me a microphone and a newer stage, and I'm ready.
Thank you so much, Adam, for being a part of the Hollyweird Paranormal podcast and now our family. Like, you're one of us. You're a theater kid. We adopted you already. And I cannot wait to give you a big abrazo when we see you in June in Windy City. Once again, can you drop your socials so our listeners can go and stalk you in every aspect?
Yes. So honestly, Google Adam Berry Paranormal and I'll show up. But if you want to take a list, I am on Twitter, Adam J. Berry. I am on hauntedlifepodcast.com for the podcast. I TikTok, the Adam Berry, Instagram, Adam Berry, Facebook, Adam Berry fans. There's so many. I mean, we're everywhere, but it's most important. Make sure you follow me on TikTok TikTok? I don't know, Instagram, whatever. Just follow me.
Well, you're funny on TikTok.
Yeah, just follow me, and then subscribe to the podcast and come to my Patreon, and we'll talk later.
Once again, thank you so much, Adam. Guys, go check out his book. Please read it. It's a great journey. Goodbye, hello, and definitely catch up on his podcast. It's going to be so amazing. I'm getting goosebumps. Like, I know it's going to be really, really good. And he already sent me a sample, a boosh to listen to. So I cannot wait for that. Definitely, we're going to hang out and we're going to share a lot of stuff. We're going to probably go on a couple of trips ourselves. So we might do a live, maybe like a little impromptu live. Me and Bryce are going to be doing a little live from our end with everybody there. So we definitely want to introduce everyone in Windy City to all of our listeners so you guys can also support. But once again, thank you so much, Adam. We're going to have you back on.
Welcome. Thank you.
Always remember to stay classy, guys. Stay weird, but most of all, stay Hollyweird. Okay? Take care of yourselves. And if Bryce was here, he would say, bye. Bye.